Here's the rewritten version of part one. I'm Emma, 35 years old, and I've been married to Jacob for 9 years. Our relationship has become quiet over time. Though there is no conflict between us, the intimacy that once defined our connection has slowly faded. One evening, after a passionless encounter, I whispered, I still don't feel enough. Jacob, calm as always, simply looked at me and said, If you need more, let me bear witness to it. And that's exactly what happened. For the first time, I felt seen for who I truly am, under the gaze of the man who had chosen to stay with me. We live in the southern suburbs of Denver, in a charming craftsman style home. Our porch overlooks a yard where autumn arrives early, and the maple leaves sparkle in the light. I'm an event planner, and Jacob is a construction manager. Our days are filled with tasks, deadlines, meetings, and hurried dinners. Evenings often drift by in silence, with each of us absorbed in our own screens. We live in peace, but a certain warmth has slipped away. That evening, after our quiet encounter, I lay on my side, staring out the window. A soft breeze fluttered the curtain, and Jacob covered us with a blanket. We lay in silence. I placed my hand on his chest, pausing for a moment. A sense of unfulfillment lingered inside me, yet Jacob didn't react as I expected. He didn't show any anger or pain. He simply looked at me, his gaze intense and unwavering. If you need more, just say it, he said. It was an invitation, not a demand. I laughed softly, asking, Are you suggesting I would betray you? He chuckled too, a light, genuine sound. If you need to live more fully, don't hide it from me. Marriage isn't a prison. Just let me understand before you go. We remained there, both of us hesitant to make a move, but unwilling to look away. The only sounds in the room were our breaths and the soft creak of a door opening. Let me know if you'd like further changes or adjustments. Here's the rewritten version of part two. We stayed there, silently, neither of us reaching out, yet neither of us turning away. The only sounds were our synchronized breathing and the soft creak of a door swinging open. After years of silence, something stirred within me, not from a mere touch, but from the simple act of being granted the freedom to be my true self. 3 days later, Jacob placed a steaming espresso on the kitchen table, a handwritten note resting beside it. Contemplation has been occupying my mind, he said, his voice calm and steady, his gaze never wavering from mine. If you truly wish to dive into something new, let me be there with you. A furrow appeared on my brow as I tried to understand, though the meaning still eluded me. He continued, urging me not to hide away in the shadows. Follow your instincts. Embrace them. If you're ready, I'll be here to witness it, so you don't have to face it alone. His words echoed in my mind, and I couldn't help but feel the weight of them. He wasn't asking for control. Rather, he was offering to be a part of my journey. I looked at him as though seeing him for the first time, not because he had changed, but because he had said something that felt so foreign to me. A phrase I thought was reserved for novels or niche podcasts. I chuckled softly, reclining back in my chair. Are you thinking of returning to podcasting? He smiled gently, neither confirming nor denying. Perhaps. The air between us seemed to shift, growing lighter but charged with a new kind of tension. Not discomfort, but trust. A quiet faith that made my heart flutter. Jacob pulled out a chair and sat across from me. He slid a tablet toward me, showing 5 profiles of men who had reached out to me through an app I'd long forgotten about. They had messaged with playful remarks, complimenting my smile, calling me alluring, making comments about a woman in a cardigan being dangerous. But I had never met any of them in person. I looked at Jacob. You contacted them? He nodded, adding, If you want to pursue this, they're ready. I was taken aback for a moment, a mix of surprise and confusion swirling within me. What about you? What will you do? I smiled nervously, teasing him. Are you just going to stand in the corner with a whiskey glass? His expression was calm, as though he understood the deeper meaning behind my question. No, he replied softly, not for control, but to witness, to remember. Because in this moment, there's no betrayal. There's only truth. My finger hovered over the screen, and after a pause, I chose the first profile, the one I'd conversed with the longest. Diego, a mixologist from Boulder, 29. His eyes seemed to tell a story that had yet to unfold. Jacob stood and kissed my forehead, a gesture filled with meaning. When the moment comes, I'll be here. And deep down, I felt ready. Feel free to let me know if you need further changes or adjustments. Here's the rewritten version of part 3. That evening, Jacob decided to change things up, abandoning his usual suit in favor of a simple white button-down shirt, unbuttoned at the collar. His sleeves were rolled neatly, and his deep-hued trousers gave him an air of casual sophistication. He looked at ease, as though he were the director of a film about to begin its first scene. The living room was carefully arranged. A plush velvet sofa, Bath and Body Works candles scattered around, and a gentle Chet Baker jazz track playing through the Marshall speaker. I stepped out of the bedroom, dressed in an ivory silk gown, my shoulders bare, with no bra beneath. For the first time, I felt as though I was redefining the concept of a wife, not through a label, but simply by existing in the moment, as I was. Jacob looked up at me, but said nothing. He raised his whiskey glass in a subtle nod, acknowledging something deeper between us. The clock struck 3 in the afternoon when the doorbell rang. I opened it. Diego, tall, sun-kissed skin, dark raven hair, and a scent that reminded me of earthy tobacco and fresh air. His brown eyes looked at me as if I were something precious, something already slipping through his fingers. He stepped over the threshold. "Take your time," he said. There was no rush, no attempt at charm, just quiet confidence. "Hello," I responded. That simple word, the way he spoke it, sent a shiver down my spine. Jacob stayed in the shadows, watching, a glass in hand. Diego walked toward me slowly, his fingers grazing my elbow and then my shoulder, the touch respectful yet deliberate. For the first time in a long time, I felt truly seen, not just physically, but emotionally. His gaze, his touch, everything about him seemed to reach deeper than surface level. He leaned in, his breath warm against my ear. "You're like a perfectly mixed martini, yet no one's ever had the courage to take that first sip." I chuckled. The sound soft and soothing. Our conversation was sparse, yet everything felt meaningful. Diego reached for my hand, guiding me toward the center of the room. No force, just an invitation, an unspoken request for me to come closer. As Jacob kissed my shoulder from his spot in the corner, Diego's fingers slid along my spine, wrapping around my waist. My heart raced, a rhythmic thudding against my chest. Diego's lips traced a path from my collarbone to the edge of my breast, and with every exhale, I felt myself slipping further into the sensation of truly being alive in this moment. Jacob watched, unmoved by jealousy, only focused on the experience unfolding before him. He wasn't controlling it. He was simply present. As Diego's touch became more intimate, I realized this wasn't about pleasure in the usual sense. It was about awakening something in me that had long been dormant. Just when the intensity reached its peak, Diego withdrew. Not abruptly, but at the perfect moment, leaving an echo of his presence lingering in the room. I looked at Jacob. He was still sitting, swirling his whiskey, his gaze unwavering, absorbing every note of the symphony playing out before him. At 8:41, the next man entered the room. Thomas, nearly 6'3" with broad shoulders, his snug gray t-shirt outlining his strength. The drizzle outside had left his sneakers slightly damp, but his presence was warm. His gaze locked with mine as if he saw something in me he wasn't afraid of. No flirtation, no grand gestures. Just an undeniable confidence that spoke volumes. "Hello," he said softly, his tone direct and purposeful. I nodded, eyes still fixed on him. Thomas didn't try to flatter me. Instead, he approached with a quiet, deliberate assurance. His arm circled around my back, while his other hand traced the length of my arm. Slow, heavy, and intimate. His every movement felt like a force, steady and sure. I leaned into him, not out of need, but because I wanted to feel anchored in the weight of his presence. He gently lifted me and laid me on the sofa. There was no rush. Every touch, every caress seemed intentional, filled with purpose. His hand glided over my thigh, fingertips brushing the silk of my gown as though savoring the moment. "Take your time," he murmured. It was clear he understood me in a way that left no room for doubt. I let myself go, my eyes open, taking in every sensation, every sound, and the rhythm of his touch. Thomas's slow, grounding presence made me tremble, reminding me of emotions I'd buried deep within myself. And then Elias walked in. He wasn't introduced, nor did anyone need to. His crumpled white shirt, missing a button, and round glasses gave him a look of intellectual disarray. His tousled hair suggested a night spent lost in thought, or perhaps in the pages of Sylvia Plath. Apologies, I seem to have arrived ahead of schedule, he said, though his eyes were already studying me, taking in every detail. I propped myself up on my elbows. Elias came over and sat beside me, his gaze not once leaving mine. Silence hung in the air. Then, with a gentle smile, he said, "You're like a sentence without punctuation, but still compelling enough to make someone pause and reflect." A smile tugged at my lips, not out of politeness, but from something deeper within. I felt acknowledged, seen, not just as a wife, but as a woman with layers and emotions. Elias reached for my hand, and I placed mine in his, not trembling, but steady, as though we had known this moment would come. When he kissed me, his lips didn't just touch mine, they lingered, as if he was savoring the meaning behind each second. I didn't know what Jacob was thinking in that moment. All I could focus on was the depth of my emotions, the vulnerability of not being just a wife, not merely a mother, but a woman coming into herself. When Elias left, his presence still lingered, the air thick with unspoken words. I sat there, wrapped in a throe, my heart racing with the knowledge that I had never felt more alive, more seen, than in that very room. Let me know if you'd like any more adjustments.